I guess pretty much the night I figured we'd have, to be honest. I didn't know how tough Yomister was in racing in the 25.5 class. I knew it had to be a little stiff. I thought he'd finish up and be third, but honestly, I thought he was fifth. So can't complain with fourth. I guess when it all shakes down. You knew earlier in the afternoon we talked in depth about Looks Like Money's race. About Looks Like Money's race this afternoon, and also the race from Memory and Imagination. I thought they both raced well. Victim of circumstance, I suppose, with Looks Like Money, and then I guess very similar, different circumstances, but very similar with Memory and Imagination. He was probably good enough to win today if I get away closer, especially when the quarter popped up the way it did, but that's racing. As I said, Yomister, I thought he raced okay to be fourth. He'll be back in and at it next week. Then I get all the way to Northfield Park. We had 3 horses in. Felt bad. I didn't realize till after Jason's horse was in and made a break. Tyler would have had a spectacular night had that not happened, because I think he was a lock if he stays at it. As it was, I think he won 3 or 4 or 5 races. So another great night for Tyler. Good job at Northfield Park. For us, I knew we were up against it. The race did not go how I thought it would with Century Legion. Now, I know I said I would get away really close with him, but at the same time, he has a tendency to get hot, right? And I didn't want, if he's going to behave himself at the gate, I don't want to stir the pot. I don't want to start that fire back up. You know, last year he was pretty aggressive, and tonight he was super polite. Down the backstretch, I did near lose him once or twice. But the age-old question, was he trying to run or trying not to run? I'm going to go with the latter, not the first. I did have to hold him together pretty good, trotting the turns perfectly, which leads me to believe maybe we'll go put a tighter line pull on him next week, or a head pull on the outside. I don't want to get him agitated. The way he was tonight is perfectly fine, right? I held him together down the lane. I think we need to work on him. Just feels like there's a spot we're missing. But here's the problem with Century Legion. This horse trots the turns perfectly. Doesn't show any issues left hind. You would think for a horse trotting the turns great and not the straightaways great, maybe something left hind is bothering. No indications of that whatsoever. He's never on the right shaft. Everything that I can see when he was on the track, young horse. He's a Trixton, feet and knees. Not bad. Could be addressed, and we will, I guess, next week, heading into the race. And he used to come on the track a little bit off right hind. I still see a little, I would assume the fact that he was a little off right hind last year in the first part of his racing, it stayed constant throughout the year. We turned him out, did no vet work on him when he came back on that right hind whatsoever, and he was much better. Leads me to believe that it was probably just an immature stifle, just needed time to fill out, grow up, joint cool down, and that's exactly what took place. Still, once in a while, especially on a hard track like tonight, you'll see him start out a little stiff on that right hind, but I didn't see much of that tonight. So maybe what we'll do is worst case scenario, rinse and repeat. Exactly what happened tonight. Best case scenario, Dr. Natessa has a look at him and says, hey, maybe that left knee is bothering him. Maybe we need to work on his feet a little bit more. That'll be up to Jason and Dr. Natessa today, or tomorrow. But tonight, man, he had lots of power in the last turn. Good last half, good last quarter. Just needs to finish that straightaway up a little better, especially if he's going back to Ontario, where in the summer it's Grand River and Woodbine, a little bit of Flamborough. And as is right now, he'd like Flamborough a lot more than the first two. So we're going to get him, I think once he gets a little stronger after 3 or 4 starts, that'll be less of a problem. But we will continue to turn over rocks and see if we can't just get him perfect. For the time being, happy the way he was tonight. Then the last 2 I raced, obviously, Patrick the Piranha. Told you guys we were going to take him back. I had an opportunity to flip him 4 wide in the last turn. I opted to go left and kind of put him in a tough spot. And once he got through the inside, he shot through and ended up being 5th. So his last 100 yards were probably his best 100 yards in the mile. I was really happy with what I saw from Patrick. I know those are horses he's supposed to beat, but until we get him turned back on, I believe we can. But until we get him turned back on and hungry again, we're going to have to be very cautious with him, be very patient, be very conservative with him. I told you guys that the last time we raced him. He's not, just because you get a great trip with him does not mean he's going to respond. I've said this, if you go back and look at much older videos, when you put him in a spot where he shouldn't have won, that's when he did his best work, right? The day he won at 48-4, I got away 5th, stayed in line 5th, no one moved, moved him over getting into the last turn, and he paced a vicious last 3/8 to win and beat good horses that day. So it's not a matter of where you put him. He's fast enough to obviously beat those horses, but he has to want it. He has to be hungry to get at it again, and he's just in a bit of a funk. But tonight he did show signs of life. Wasn't running in, got over the half very, very well tonight. So we'll see how things play out for Patrick in the coming weeks. I'd love to see him draw 2-3-4, sit 2-3-4 next week and finish up hard. I'd love to see that. So let's see if we can get a luck of the roll with the post position next week instead of what we were left with this week with a number of horses. Last race, Leggy. It's just coming in on 15, 16 days. You can train her up, but she's still going to be a little bit short. You can't race 2-year-olds well, she's 3 now, but you can't race a young horse every 15 days. It's just not going to work that way. Not a standard bred. And Leggy was just a little bit short tonight. Those horses that beat her have a lot more experience. And I think if we can get her back in next week, I think you're going to see a much better mile from her. But not a horrible mile from anybody today, to be honest. The 2 in the Meadows were great. Yo Mister was pretty good, and the 3 raced good here. Not what we wanted, not what we hoped, but truthfully speaking, probably exactly what we thought we were going to get. No disappointments from today. Hopefully we can get them in right back in 7 days. Healthy and better post positions. That'd be key. So with that, it's a wrap. It is 11:59. I'll be home in about 10 minutes, and then up tomorrow to go to the Meadows for Spitfire Overseas and International Bid. Take care. I hope you guys had some luck tonight, wherever you were backing, wherever you were owning pieces of. It wasn't, as I said, it wasn't a bad day. Just liked it a little bit better. Take care.